So Vikas Gaba is representing USAID, United States Agency for International Development, primarily focusing on the PACE. You heard in the earlier conversation the Partnership to Advance Clean Energy PACE program, and I mentioned PACE-R and PACE-D. So Vikas is primarily engaged with USAID on the PACE-D Technical Assistance Program. The area that I at least know, because I interface with some of the project with Nexent, who is leading that project for USAID in India, primarily on the energy efficiency and smart grid, et cetera. So it was very important on the deployment and taking policy and technology into the policy domain. Vikas Gaba is representing the PACE-D Technical Assistance Program. So Vikas, what are your perspectives on the USAID?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll first talk about the overall market perspective, and then possibly in the Q&A session touch upon the learnings, specific learnings that come from the pilot. We have heard some very interesting discussions from a private utility perspective, as well as view of the regulator as such. We have about 60 distribution companies, and on the side of, if we pick up the public side of things, that is about 95% of the market in India. And there's a very large distribution company base that exists. So I'll pick up upfront, I'll highlight about 5 issues and some of the thoughts around these 5 issues, which also happen to be areas where I think that a lot of support and collaboration between India and US can happen on these aspects. First is upfront capex investment, which is a challenge for the Indian utilities when we talk about public utilities. Can we encourage business models that are based on shared savings, based on guaranteed savings, based on capital contribution from the vendors? Can we have these kind of models? Can the model be that utility becomes agnostic towards an electronic meter and a smart meter? Their investment is limited to that extent. Second is opportunity origination. We have policy goals right now. There is Uday program, which all of you might be aware of, a huge distribution reforms program in the country. There are national tariff policy targets also for smart meter deployment. There is a huge need. There are recent articles talking about $44 billion market opportunity in India. But opportunity origination itself is a very big challenge. Can we have facilitation vehicles who can support utilities end to end to bring these opportunities to the markets? I'm sure all vendors are very eagerly waiting, industry is waiting, regulators are waiting to have real business cases coming up. Can we have that kind of facilitation coming in? Return on investments. Now, we have had experience with pilots, there are private sector experience also, but establishing the ROI and clear cost benefit analysis cases in the market are very limited. With the USAID support in the PACE-D program, we are working on a few case studies that will be made public shortly in a few weeks from now, where we have gone to the depth of cost and benefit analysis and how it actually works, sharing all nitty-gritties of the costs and benefits that could accrue. Fourth is action enablement through analytics. Now, smart meters itself are not going to result in benefits. They need to be backed by actions. They need to be backed by analytics and data. Things are evolving on the field. I'll share some of that when I talk later in this session. But it is very important that that action is adequately focused and real benefits are realized. And the last one I would say is empowered governance framework. There could be dispute when private sector comes in, there are vendors come in, there could be disputes around savings, there could be disputes around many issues that might crop up. So an empowered governance framework which investors can trust, which everyone, utilities can trust, can we have that kind of mechanism that puts in place? I believe all these 5 issues are very important to bring this large public sector market into the front.
Thank you.